Cool. So Ben is going to be coming up and talking about one of the things we love talking about in blockchain land, programmable money.
So just for the benefit of everyone here, my name's Ben Cousens. I lead business development for ZEBEDEE. I've got a background in video games development originally. I moved into the world of finance in about 2014, and I worked on video games M&A for about 6 years. Probably most notably SoftBank's acquisition of Supercell, subsequent sale to Tencent, Giant's acquisition of Playtika, and Epic Games' fundraise in 2018. I moved from there into venture capital, where I did gaming investments for Lakestar, including ZEBEDEE, which, having worked with the team, I became so convinced by the mission that I joined last May. But what I'm here to talk to you about today is money and games, and the relationship between money and games, because I think there's a lot of noise out there, and it's very difficult in this environment to get to the actual signal about what we're discussing when we talk about value transfer and ownership in virtual environments. Because really, from the beginning, games have always involved money. If you go back to the late 70s and the early 80s, when we had arcade machines, people were inserting coins into the machine to get entertainment. There was an act of value transfer there. And also, games themselves have always involved money internally, intrinsically. It ranges from Mario on the NES, when you ran around collecting coins, to MMORPGs like Elder Scrolls, which revolve around a gold-based economy. In Grand Theft Auto, your objective is to become the city's kingpin, but really it's about being the wealthiest individual in that city. And of course, there's Warcraft and its gold. But that's extended into mobile as well, and we have representations of money that now turn into multiple kind of faceted layers, where you have in-game currencies, premium currencies, fiat currencies, all trying to work together to represent some sort of value transfer or abstraction of value in virtual environments. But crucially, money itself does not actually work in games. And to think about that coin-op machine, when you insert 25 cents into a machine, you don't have 25 cents of value inside that game. You just have access to play. Equally, on Grand Theft Auto, if you pass a mission and win $400, you don't actually have $400 land in your bank account. And really, the missing link, we took this quote from Bill Gurley, who's a VC at Benchmark, and we modified it slightly. He said that the real issue here is that gaming is a world that thrives on credits and points, the vast majority of which have no real value or are locked in a controlled ecosystem. Imagine a credit or token that is not just freely liquid, but might also appreciate in value. Well, the might also appreciate in value is speculation. Speculation is a game in and of itself. What if that token also inherently had value? What if it was just money? So why haven't games got USD or euros or pounds flowing through them natively? What's been stopping that from happening, despite the inherent link between video games and money? Well, critically, money has never been digital. I took this meme from the files are in the computer to try and explain it, but you can't put money in a computer. You can't walk up to a laptop and pull out a £5 note and insert it in the machine and have £5 represented in that computer. What's more, handling money itself, and games developers will know this, is a very expensive thing to do. If you want to send a small amount of value to one of your players to reward them for their, in this case, excellent questing, what you actually find when you deal with banking infrastructure is that the cost per transactions mean that nano payments are unfeasible. The cost to actually send the money is more than the money itself. But even more puzzlingly, you're challenged as to whether or not you have a license to send money in games, and as to whether you know that gamer as a person and whether you know that they're not a criminal. This all sums together to effectively make money a burden. This is why games have not integrated money. You need money transmitter licenses, you need a compliance team, you have to maintain records for tax, you have to monitor transactions. On top of that, the legislation changes all of the time. That was until money became digital. And yes, we're talking about Bitcoin here, but I want to step back from social media and actually think about what is really happening in the world. What are we seeing happen? Well, we're seeing in the US that the banking regulator has allowed retail banks to offer Bitcoin products to their customers. This means that if you're a regular person and you have a Wells Fargo or a US bank account, that you can now open a Bitcoin account alongside your regular checking and savings account. If you're a corporation, critically, you can now also open a Bitcoin account and you can process payments using Bitcoin and receive your revenue in Bitcoin. You cannot yet do this with other cryptocurrencies, but this is fundamentally a very, very important thing to grasp about dealing with internet native money, digital money. What's more, its adoption in countries where their currencies are collapsing is rampant, with Africa and Latin America leading the way. There's no ulterior motive here other than people trying to retain value in their lives. They're grasping for a money that doesn't collapse in the wake of the dollar. Money's also become, as a consequence of becoming digital, programmable. This is a snapshot from our own API that demonstrates how, for a software developer, you can now make money behave as you would imagine dealing with money should be. You don't have to go to your bank, get a license, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. No, you can just trigger a payment command and then you can send money. And critically, Bitcoin has the fastest adoption curve in history. There is an existing user base to which you can market. There are 130 million users. It's growing faster than the internet in terms of the pace of adoption. And as mentioned previously, the regulatory environment around it is becoming crystal clear. Globally, Bitcoin is becoming money. It is a steady and slow process. It won't happen overnight. Don't listen to people who tell you otherwise. But this is happening. It is real. And so now, what we do at ZEBEDEE is we make money work in games. We provide all of that compliant infrastructure that you need as a games developer to send value to and from players, to enable bidirectional value transfer, and we do it with a very simple API. If any of you are familiar with Stripe, it's a good analogy to think of us. The connection between us and your game is happening at the game engine level, but fundamentally anything that speaks HTTP will speak ZEBEDEE. And this enables any developer to bring play and earn mechanics, for want of a better word, into their game. But more critically, think about it as putting money in your game and enabling value transfer. That's the core of what we do. But I think it sounds very abstract. So we've got a quick video here that I want to show you. And that really highlights the breadth of our product suite and what's possible when you use money in a game inherently and natively.
I saw, oh, well, we got an active god, so wow, we've got more than 20 power-ups, so that'll kind of mess everybody up. It literally makes it chaotic. We have like tornadoes and things, and the drivers hate it, but it only lasts for about 20 seconds. And we have lightning bolts. So what I'm trying to do here is just trying to kind of show how the audience can interact with the game through Bitcoin.
So that's us and the product suite that we bring. It's funny, there's actually a fair bit more we developed that's even more exciting. But if in case it isn't clear, we're powered by Bitcoin. Here is a hyper-casual developer building on our platform. You can see the process of winning Bitcoin in a mobile game and withdrawing. We use Bitcoin because it's open source money. Let that sink in. It's like Linux, and it's going to be here for a while. We actually use a software update that came to Bitcoin in 2018 called Lightning. It enables Bitcoin to be transferred instantly with near zero fees. It's actually so fast you can stream money in real time. It radically alters Bitcoin's energy profile for those who are concerned about that. It is programmable, it's secure and safe, Bitcoin's never been hacked, it's widely recognized, and it's widely accepted. This enables developers to power entirely new experiences. Yes, for players, you can now have play and earn economies, but also crucially, you can have in-game transaction and economic activity. I can meet you in the virtual world, and I can buy something off you with real money. The audience can also participate in the games. You saw a clip of that in the video, but really, when a payment goes through a Twitch stream, it can go directly into the game itself and cause things to happen, whether that's changing the weather or giving a player some money to buy something because his fans want to support him. And then for developers, I guess the part that you're all interested in is the monetization. We're a payment processor. We take a cut 1% on every transaction, but you can come into that transaction activity too. It's a variable rate. We guide to 5%, but you could raise it higher than that if you want. You can now monetize the economic activity going on in your game. The developers of EVE Online, CCP, they've said that if they could monetize their economic activity, that would be a $10 billion economy. They sold for $400 million because the only way they can operate today is with a subscription-based economy. Think about what being able to monetize economic activity offers you as a developer. We provide everything a developer needs. We've got an open REST API. That's what I mean by if it speaks HTTP, it speaks ZEBEDEE. And we provide a developer dashboard, including analytics about what is going on in your game. It lets you query player transaction activity. You can spot and identify whales, for example, and you can connect it to your own analytics stack to form a holistic view across cohorts and optimizing for UA spend, etc. We've also built, for those of you who might not be familiar with these kind of backends, a pre-built game server that is basically a, plug it in and you can go, and it's built for best practice. So we tried to provide developers with everything that they could possibly need. On the consumer side, we've built a Bitcoin wallet that is optimized for gaming. It includes a browser extension and it connects to Twitch and Discord, and we use a system called gamer tags to enable payments and value to flow through games without QR codes and other points of friction that are common to cryptocurrencies. This really is the process of pairing your wallet with a game and then value can be transferred. It's very, very simple. And it works. These are some of our players in Brazil who have been earning Bitcoin playing Counter-Strike. And I particularly like the middle chap here, who has actually earned enough to be able to pay his bills. In these countries where their currencies have collapsed, even earning nominal amounts of Bitcoin in the range of 50 cents to $1 can actually be transformational for people's lives. And critically, because Bitcoin is regulated and understood and has deep liquidity, i.e. exchanges in every market, it's possible to actually transact with this without having any bridges or friction. You don't have to go through a DEX to get to a stable coin to cash out on an exchange. You just go straight from either Bitcoin to a store where it's accepted or to your local bank account. And we connect those rails. Like I said, the implementation is simple. You apply to us for API access. We perform a quick KYB check because we're a regulated payment processor, and then you can start using it in your game. We have seen developers get API access and have a game in the App Store in as little as 5 days. It really is very simple to integrate. You do not have to rebuild your game stack or do anything new. You just change the reward mechanic or you change your payment rail. And it works for developers too. We have 10 developers building on the platform today. We've got about 8 or 9 games live in the App Store. We've seen retention double through to at least day 45. You're talking literally a 2x improvement in retention because players can now pull value out of the game. From a user acquisition standpoint, we've also seen return on ad spend jump significantly. One of our developer partners is a studio called Vika. They have the Who Wants to Be a Millionaire IP and a suite of hyper-casual games. They've seen their ROAS improve anywhere from 20% to 125%. So those of you in the audience who will understand what this means, you'll know that an 8% improvement is staggering. For this to be double digits demonstrates the power of putting real value into video games. Here's a few games for those of you who are curious. I'm sure that after COVID, we're all good with QR codes, so scan one of those if you'd like to get a link to a game and play it. Hopefully it'll work. But otherwise, I'm here. You can talk to me. We're happy to talk to developers, exchanges, partners of all kinds. We're growing very fast this year. Thank you.
Good. Very succinct. 4 minutes for questions as well.
Good.
Job done. Right. Questions. If there isn't, I've got some. So, have we got the? I think the mic's coming. While the mic's coming, I'll ask one. So obviously you're showing there stats, which for people who don't know, I just checked actually. It's about 2,500 stats is about $1. So that's
Yes.
the sort of range. So you are talking definitely microtransactions.
Yes.
Is there a sort of upper limit? Can people start sending bitcoins through your system, or does that start to hit regulation?
So we put limits in place to stop kind of bad behavior or abuse of the platform, but there's no technical reason you wouldn't have a limit there.
Okay. But there's a legal reason why you...
No, there's no legal reason either. We're just trying to make sure that this is above board and safe. So we don't want, like a 17-year-old coming and YOLOing a Bitcoin on something. Like the idea is here, the most transactions are around a 30-cent range, and it's supposed to be thousands and thousands of high-volume micropayments because that's how most games work when they're free to play or have IAP.
Cool. Good. No, can you just wait for the mic so we can get it recorded?
There you are.
Hi there, thank you for that. Just a quick question on the income received. Do the users, are they informed about paying tax on their income and anything that they gain from playing the game?
Yeah, so like an exchange, we provide CSV exports of the transactions that are occurring on the platform. But frankly, these payments are tiny. They're micropayments. You're talking about less than a cent in some cases. It's going to take a while for any user to trigger any kind of tax threshold.
Does the wallet work in native?
In the game itself.
In the game itself. So how or are there any App Store charges, etc., be paid?
So most of these mechanics are actually paying out as a reward mechanic. So in hyper casual, for example, they're taking their ad revenue and they're converting a fraction of that into Bitcoin, which they're returning to the player. But that's offset by the massive increases in engagement that they see. If you want to do IAP, of course, you're going to run into Apple's problems. I mean, I don't like to guess about the future, but it's quite clear to me that the payment infrastructure that Apple has a control over right now is collapsing, and that's, Epic is going to keep needling there, so we're bullish on that, in the medium term. But you can link out to payments, and we use, this is slightly geeky, but we use a protocol we use a thing called LNURL, and that enables like the actual request to a website itself can be a payment. So as a user, you would see, you flip into a browser page and flip back to the game immediately, and the payment's been done. That doesn't break Apple's rules, but I'm sure they won't like how that works.
Interesting. Thanks.
Two there. That's good. We can reuse the mic.
Do you have an official answer from Apple and Google if this is allowed? Because they're very fast at blocking accounts.
Yeah, so we've spoken to Apple and Google on both fronts. It's absolutely fine. The thing that they take issue with is something called cash for tasks. So you can't explicitly say to someone, do this for Bitcoin. They don't like that. But if it's the chance to win Bitcoin in a gaming environment, that's totally fine.
Okay, thank you.
You talked about a few use cases with the games you've worked with, but some games are more complex. So for example, MMOs like World of Warcraft or anything else really have multiple digital assets, multiple currencies inside the game.
Yes.
So do you think integrating Bitcoin or other cryptocurrencies with them could sort of ruin their economy? Like what sort of conversations have you had with maybe game economists or someone like that? Do you work with your clients or gamers?
Yeah, and some of our investors have been behind MMOs themselves, and they're very familiar with these economies. I think, we're not games designers. That's important to understand. We're providing a payment rail that allows money to flow natively in games, but in MMOs, a lot of the time, the variation in currencies is just because you can't get fiat currency into the game. So they use abstractions and proxies for value to kind of get around that. So you create a premium currency and a soft currency. Well, you can just do away with the premium currency and have that be real money. And then the problem becomes balancing the game. But that's something we leave with developers.
One last one.
Just a quick one. You mentioned the other verticals that your payment rail is going to be integrated into. Can you give us a couple of examples?
Yes. So, a common question we get is where does the Bitcoin come from? And the truth is, a lot of the time it's provided by advertisers. But what's going on in the background there is a manual exchange to Bitcoin. So the advertiser's providing the revenue, the developer is turning some of that revenue into Bitcoin. Well, why don't we automate that? So why don't we just connect to ad exchanges and then Bitcoin flows natively through the ad into the wallet, and then you've solved that. So that's one example of how we think about it. But the great thing about Bitcoin, frankly, is that it plugs into everything. And so you can connect it to open banking. I could withdraw Bitcoin to my bank with one touch. There's no exchange process that goes on. And that's because the liquidity is now there globally.
Lovely. Well, thank you very much, Ben.
Thank you. Cheers.